This here is my Mitre measuring system on the right hand side of my drop saw, and this is particularly good for cutting and measuring picture frames. It can be quite tricky working out where to cut those internal rebates of a frame, and this makes it very, very easy. You can still use it for measuring square cuts or mitres in another project as well, but it's just good for picture frames. This one here I've had for a long time, for years, and I just drew the measurements on myself and the lines, and it's worked very, very well, but it's got very beat up and it needs redoing. And rather than draw them on this time, I've made this, and I've printed it off. I'm going to cut them out, glue them to it. I have exactly the same system on my guillotine, and normally I use that for picture framing, but if I do more of a rustic picture frame, then I don't bother using the guillotine, I do it on here, but it's exactly the same system with the same scale. I'll put this together now, and then after that I'll show you exactly how it works. To cut this out, this line here will go up against the fence, and we need to cut that pretty accurately. And then the same here. I've done it so the next piece joins on. Let's find the next piece. So we need to cut right on the edge of the lines there, and the same this side as well. And it shouldn't be too difficult to do. Just take your time and get it as accurate as you can. And then when we put them down, they should join together good. Now I need to cut down to width, and the width of the platform there is 8 centimetres. For this to work, you need some sort of platform that's level with the bed of the saw, and it needs a fence at the back that's in line with the fence on the saw. I could have made one for the video, but I really don't need one, and I'm sure you'll be able to put something together like that. It just needs, like I say, to be level and in line. The good thing about this one is it is adjustable, so if you put your scale on, it can be moved slightly left or right to make sure the scale is fine-tuned, and if it ever gets knocked out of place or whatever, then it can be readjusted. So you could incorporate something like that, I'm sure, into yours if you feel like you need to. I've put some masking tape on my fence here because I'm going to use spray adhesive to glue the pieces down. But first of all I need to make a mark, and then we'll glue our first piece down and use that mark to line it up. So if we put the saw blade down, and I'll put my ruler up against one of the teeth, and I'm going to make a mark at 30 centimetres. I've just cut some strips of laminate, and that's to go on top. I've got this roll here so I can get some pretty long strips there, but you can get it in A4 sheets as well, so it's pretty easy to find, and that should give it some good protection. So now I'm going to do a test, and I'm going to hold it on a mark there. So I've got that on 28 centimetres, and we'll make a cut. And as you can see, that's dead on 28. That came out perfect, but it might not have done, and it probably won't for everybody the first time. I was just lucky. In this case, I could have moved my fence forwards or backwards like I said earlier, but then I just thought about it. If you make your own fence, then what you could do is just put a couple of temporary fixings in while you put the scale on, and then if the scale isn't quite right, you can move it into position exactly where you want it and put your final fixings in there. To show you how it works, I'm going to quickly put a frame together. I've just found this old photo kicking around. It is one of my photos. So we've got 300mm across and 400mm this way. So when we make our frame, we have to make it slightly bigger, and that's to allow for contraction and expansion. So the glass is exactly the same size as the picture, and if the frame contracts too much, it will break the glass. So what we do is we add 3mm in each direction. So that will become 403 or 303 mil that way. I've got this old moulding here that's been kicking around and it's all scratched, but it will do for this purpose. If we use this corner here between the face we just cut and the rebate, we can position that on our scale in the right position so we can cut it to length. So what we do is, if we wanted 400 mil inside rebate, then we'd move that corner onto the 400 mil line there, and if I cut a 45 degree the opposite way now, the other end, then the inside rebate will be exactly 400 millimeters, but we want 403 millimeters. So on this scale, they go up, the bowl lines go up in centimeters and the thinner lines are half centimeter. So if I move that to the half centimeter, now we've got 405 millimeters, and that's still no good. We want 403. So what we do is we eyeball it. So I'll just move that back a little bit. That's the 400 plus 3. I can see 3 millimeters, so that's close enough. With a picture frame, it doesn't actually have to be that perfect. As long as it's around about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch, it will work. But one thing you do have to do is both sides of the frame have to be exactly the same, so you do need to use a stop. So that's my stop there. On my fence here, I have the T-track. You could add a T-track to yours, but you don't have to. You could just use a stop block with a clamp and it will work just as well. I don't normally picture frame in conditions like this. I have got a picture framing room, but and this hasn't turned out great. The two mouldings that I used, the two pieces, were actually slightly different, but it was good enough just to show how to cut the frame to length. So that was the main thing. It's a bit ordinary, the frame, but it'll do. I may put it up in here actually, put it up high out of the way so you can't see the joints. If you're not measuring off the rebates for a picture frame and all you want to do is make a square cut, then you use your markings where they touch the fence. So if you want to make 58 centimeter cut, then you would put it there where it meets the fence. Well, that was a good job done, and it needed doing too. The old one was getting pretty beat up, and I think this way is much better anyway. The printout with the markings are a lot clearer, so overall I think it's a big improvement. I'll put a link in the description below, like I said earlier, with the download for the printout, if anybody wants to have a go at it, and I'll try and do an imperial version too. Hopefully I explain well enough how it works. It's very easy to measure those internal rebates of a picture frame. If you've ever had a go at that before, then you'll know that it can be a bit tricky. This way it makes it very, very easy. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.